So Lama Yeshe encourages us to look into the mind, to look inside, to study the mind. Because from the Buddhist perspective, the mind, it is really the center, it is really the heart of all our experiences. Whatever we know, whatever we feel, whatever we experience, we all know, we feel, we experience it through the mind. We can safely say that the mind is the source of all our experience. And therefore, to know the mind well, to investigate it deeply, is of utmost importance. Right? The Buddha said, the mind is the forerunner of all our experiences. Very much. And for the past 2,500 years, and even before that, these great Hindu yogis who investigated their minds deeply and developed these marvelous states of mental absorption have been investigating the mind, and they use the mind to transcend any dissatisfactory experience and to attain a state of total, everlasting inner peace by working with their minds. So obviously, the question arises, well, what is the mind? What is mind? This phenomena we call mind. In general, when we talk about mind, consciousness, awareness, these three terms basically, generally speaking, mean the same. They refer to the same thing. They are synonymous. We say they are mutually inclusive. Mind, awareness, consciousness refer to the same thing. If you talk about it further in very specific contexts, in various schools of Tibetan Buddhism, then there might be some slight differences on how these words are used. But here, now when we talk about mind in general, awareness, consciousness, they mean the same, refer to the same thing. And the first aspect that we can really talk about when we talk about the mind is that it is a non-physical phenomenon. The mind is not physical. It's not a physical thing. It is not in any way material. It does not have a particular shape or a particular color. You cannot see the mind with your eyes, nor can you touch it with your fingers. Right? The mind does not have any physical attribute as such as the body does. But we describe the mind as a continuity, a continuum of mental activity. Mind, consciousness, what it is the continuity of subjective experience itself. Subjective cognitive experience. The process of moment to moment cognitively knowing itself is what we describe as mind, consciousness, awareness. And it does not have any physical attribute whatsoever. Which is to say, the mind actually is not findable somewhere. You can look for it, you can check where is it, but just like space, where you cannot really say, space is here, in the same way the mind, you cannot really put your finger on it and say, that is the mind. Because it does not have a spatial location, because it is non-physical, you see. For example, if you have a particular experience, a mental event, like a particular emotion arising within you, like joy, or hope, or maybe anger or dissatisfaction, where is that emotion? Try to locate it. Where is it? Or when you see a particular object, for example, if you see this beautiful flower here, it's a plastic flower but still very beautiful. You look at it, where is the awareness that experiences flower? Is it in your eyeball? Or is it in the flower itself? Is it somewhere in between? Is it inside your brain? Where is it, the awareness that knows flower? These are actually very important questions to ask ourselves and to investigate in, to question our own perception. How do things exist? And how do I actually perceive them? How does it work? What is it? What is this awareness that knows flower, microphone, Wangdu, me, you? From the Buddhist perspective, it's very clearly asserted that the mind is not the brain. The mind is not the brain itself. This physical mass of billions of nerve cells and neurons in your skull. The mind is not the brain. It's also not a function of the brain as such. It's not what we would call an emerging property of the brain, that there's a brain and it gives rise to conscious experience, being its main substantial cause. But the mind has its very own continuity. The mind has its very own continuum. Of course, we have to acknowledge that the brain is the very central part of our nervous system, right? And the mind definitely is very strongly related to the brain. There is no question. Nobody is questioning that our human mind is very much dependent on our human brain, on our body. Absolutely. There's different kinds of consciousnesses which are related to the body in different ways. For example, an eye consciousness perceiving a flower arises in dependence upon an eye sense organ. Absolutely. If you smell lunch already when you go for tea, that sense consciousness, that nose consciousness apprehending smell, arises in dependence upon your nose. You see, of course, there are various sense consciousnesses, coarser form of consciousness, which are related to the body. But the mind itself, experience itself, however, especially when we talk about the subtler forms of mental consciousness, they are not something physical. They don't have a physical material attribute. They are not the same as the body. Okay. In Buddhism, when you study Buddhist psychology more deeply, we have a very particular definition of what mind is. And the definition of mind is, it is that which is clear and knowing. The mind is that which is clear and knows. Or sometimes said, it is that which has clarity and awareness. So we have two parts in this definition here, two aspects. The first aspect is this clarity aspect, which refers to the mind's nature. The mind is by its very nature unobstructive clarity. Your mind is completely clean, clear. Your mind is by nature completely clean, clear right now. It has been clean, clear in the past, and it will always be clean, clear in the future. Which is to say that whatever negative, harmful emotion arises in your mind, whatever disturbing emotional thing arises in your mind, it is not one with the mind, but it just appears in it temporarily. It just arises momentarily. Like a cloud arises momentarily in the sky, just being there for a while, moving and then changing again and disappearing, integrating. In the same way, thoughts, emotions, memories, concepts, ideas, fears, They just arise temporarily in the mind, appear momentarily. But you see, the mind itself is clarity, and due to its clarity, things can appear in it. The mind reflects phenomena, just like, very much like a mirror, when it is clean, when it is clear, yeah, reflects things, reflecting visual objects. In the same way, your mind has the very characteristic, due to its clarity, to reflect things. Yeah? If you look at a mirror, okay, we all know a mirror, objects are reflected in the mirror. It doesn't really matter if they are nice objects or not so nice objects. It doesn't matter if they are beautiful or if they're ugly. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of us all? It doesn't matter if they are boring or very exciting. The mirror doesn't really care. They are just reflected. The mirror doesn't judge. You are a weird object, I don't reflect you. It just does. It's its nature to reflect. Whatever the mirror reflects, the clarity of the mirror is not affected by that. The clarity is always there, and it's simply reflecting. In the very same way, when you talk about your own consciousness, your mind reflects things. And whatever arises in it, whatever comes up in the mind, how disturbing it might be, the mind's natural clarity is not affected by that as such. Just as an ugly thing appears in the mirror for a while, but the mirror is not affected by it, the thing is not in the mirror, right? In the same way, a disturbing emotion appearing in the mind, it does not affect the mind's clarity. It is not in your mind. It's not a character of your mind as such. It's just there for a while. And the disturbing emotions can be taken away. They can be removed when we work with the mind clearly. That's a very important point. Delusions, disturbing emotions are not a main character of your mind. They are removable. They are workable. Because your mind is by nature clear. The second part of this definition is that the mind is knowing. And the knowing aspect of the mind refers to its function. It's what mind does. Not only does the mind reflect phenomena due to its clarity, but it has the very characteristic of being able to perceive these phenomena, to know them, to engage with them, to know objects, to be aware of them. That's the function of the mind. So the mind is, by its definition, clear, reflecting phenomena, and knowing them. If you study Buddhist psychology further, you will see they have a very, very clear layout of how we define phenomena. Every phenomenon, whatever exists, has a particular definition, so we can talk about things clearly. For example, if you talk about the phenomena fire, what is fire? Its definition in Buddhist psychology is, it is that which is hot and burning. Fire by its very nature is hot. Hotness is the very nature of fire. You will not find a fire in the whole universe that is not hot, right? And its function is to burn things. It's to burn logs or wood or whatever material it might be. That's what fire does. In the same way, just like fire is hot by nature and burning in its function, the mind by nature is clear, non-obstructive, luminous openness, and its function is to be aware, to know. That's the very most basic definition in Buddhism of what mind is. That's how we can talk about mind. Another thing, how we can talk about mind, another aspect of the mind is that the mind has no beginning and also has no end. This mental continuity of your consciousness, based on the assertion that it is not physical, it's not a physical thing, it is not produced by the brain, It's not an emerging property of the body, since from the Buddhist perspective matter cannot produce mind. Where does mind come from? Where does it arise from? Where does your stream, your continuity of your consciousness actually come from? Where does it start? What caused it? Buddhism asserts that your mind, your mental continuum, did not begin at the beginning of this life. It didn't start at the moment of conception, right? When in the womb of your mother, the matter, the physical matter of your father and mother coming together, and conception happened, and what is called your body now started at that very moment, your body having started to develop at that moment. Right? Buddhism wouldn't say that at this moment your consciousness started as well. No. Because from Buddhist point of view, when we talk about the cause of mind, and its cause not being able to be physical, we say it is only a former moment of consciousness which can give rise to a later moment of consciousness. There's very interesting meditations that you can do, that when you sit down now, for example, and you follow your memory back through your day this morning, yesterday night, yesterday evening, your check-in day, there's a certain continuity that you can follow back, right, of your experience that you had. A certain continuum is there. One moment of mind, and there was something before, what was before that. You can actually meditate back through your life. This year, last year, the last 5 years, 10 years, back to your childhood even. You can think back, there's this continuous stream of consciousness, one moment that led to the next moment of mind, until you eventually arrive at your very first conscious moment of your life. Maybe when you were 5, 6 years old. Some people can do it even before, maybe 3 years. Your first conscious memory of this life, like wow. And before that, we might not be able to go, right? It's kind of dark. But we can be sure that even before our first conscious memory of this life, awareness was there. Isn't it? Our parents can confirm when we were 1 year old, we were very aware, very present. Yeah. But we can't remember. We cannot access it anymore. The stream of consciousness was present. If you follow it then even more back, theoretically, in meditation, into your mother's womb, when you were in your womb of your mom, and before that, at the time of conception, where a moment of consciousness was there, where did that moment of consciousness come from? The Buddhist perspective is it came from a former moment of consciousness of a previous life. Your stream of consciousness of this life was caused by the stream of consciousness of your former lives. At the end of your last life, as we're going to talk about in great detail, consciousness continued through a bardo, an intermediate state, and and this consciousness reincarnated in your present form, but it's a continuum, a continuity of something which has already started before. And also one last life, where did the consciousness come from in that life? It came from consciousness before that. You can follow it back further and further and further. You will find no beginning. You cannot find a point in time where your consciousness started, where you say, here it came into existence. How did it come into existence? Well, it must have had a cause that gave rise to it. And that cause can only be a mental cause, a former moment of consciousness. There is always a moment before that. You follow me? That is how Buddhism asserts past lives and also future lifetimes. That at the end of this life, when this body disintegrates, when these elements that make up your body kind of disintegrate and the body dies, passes away, your consciousness doesn't stop at the time of death. Consciousness continues. Subtle forms of mental consciousness continue on And due to cause and effect relationship, karma, as we're going to talk about, it will take a new kind of form, a new manifestation, and it continues on in the future. There is no beginning point to point out for our consciousness, and there is also no end. It's an ever-flowing river of mental events that you're experiencing right now, changing moment by moment. And we're going to meditate on that this evening to gain some experience where you can check it out for yourself. So in Buddhism we say mind is beginningless, it's endless. And this life is just one snapshot, one manifestation of many lives that we have had and that we will also have in the future. That's a Buddhist perspective, a theory of existence, which we don't have to immediately accept, remember, but we can just start to think about that and discover it a little bit further. Okay. There's various ways that I would like to share with you, just a little bit, to give you a bit more of an overview of how we can speak of mind. There's various ways of how we can divide the mind. First of all, we can divide the mind in a manner of what it observes. And this is, we can divide the mind into six, what is called the six main minds. And these six main minds refer to our five sense consciousnesses, as we already mentioned: eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body consciousness, right? From which we receive all information from the external world. And then we can also talk about what is called mental consciousness, the sixth form of consciousness, the domain of the mind itself. And often, in order to describe this, these five sense consciousnesses and the one mental consciousness, sometimes the analogy of the hand is used. For example, when you look at a hand, each finger represents one of the sense consciousnesses: eye consciousness, ear, nose, tongue, and body consciousness. From this, all the external information comes in and we perceive it, and all this information comes together in the palm of your hand, which symbolizes your mental consciousness. That's the place where all this information gets processed and where we start to think, feel, and know and like or dislike what we see, smell, taste, touch, and so forth. These are what are called the six main minds, one way of how we can divide consciousness. Another way of how we can talk about consciousness is how does it observe, how does it experience things? How does the mind experience? Because apart from these six main minds, we talk about so-called mental factors. Mental factors are ways of, they determine how we have a particular experience. Some of these mental factors are always there. For example, the mental factor of feeling something being pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, or having some form of intentions. I want to do this. I intend to do that. Yeah, volition, leading our minds to engage in certain actions. Some of these mental factors are virtuous, positive ones, such as joy, kindness, compassion, considering others' feelings, equanimity, and so forth. These kind of states of mind which cause us to be happy and well, these are mental factors that accompany our main minds, that are together with them. Some of these mental factors are not so positive, but they are actually quite harmful at the moment, referring to our attachment, anger, greed, pride, and whatever arises within us, depression, sadness, anxiety, low self-esteem, which cause us to feel unwell and suffer. So these mental factors refer to our thoughts, our emotions, our various views and attitudes, you see. And it's our job as practitioners to identify the positive ones, to make them more manifest, and to identify the harmful ones, to diminish them and overcome them. This is actually what will make our mind very, very happy. So you see, when we look at these two divisions, the 6 main minds and the mental factors which accompany them. When you study Buddhist psychology, this explains very well how perception actually works. Another thing I would like to share with you, for example, let's say it's your mother's birthday, and you know your mother loves lilies. She loves lilies, flowers. Yeah. And you think you want to be a good son or daughter, and you want to make your mother very happy. So at her birthday, you walk into the local flower shop, the nursery, and you want to buy very nice lilies for your mom. So you walk into the flower shop, and everyone who has ever entered a flower shop, you know, you're kind of overwhelmed by sense experience, right? You have all these colors and shapes. It's very humid in there. It's all these smells, and you kind of think, okay, where are the lilies, right? And then you look around and you see, there they are. How does it actually work that your mind understands this is lilies? We talk about 3 conditions that need to come together for the mind to notice, this is a lily. First of all, there is an object out there, a lily, which is called the observed object condition. And then there is an eye organ, an eye sense power of a human being that is called the empowering condition. And then there is a third condition, which is a moment of consciousness being present, which in combination with your eye organ and the observed object, the lily, brings about an eye consciousness apprehending a lily. So an eye consciousness seeing the flower, the lily, depends on these 3 conditions: the object, the sense organ, and consciousness itself being present. That's the main mind, eye consciousness apprehending a lily. And then you have all these kind of thoughts about it, right? The feeling of, I like this one, now I'm going to take this one, this is already a bit withered. Maybe I take this one also. I like this, I don't like that. You pay attention to this one. You distinguish, you have a discriminating factor of that's a nice one, that's not a nice one. This is a rose. You know, these mental factors then play a role to determine how you experience the lily. And all these things are happening constantly with every sense consciousness, every mental consciousness, very quickly, all the time. You want to know what is the definition of one moment in time? From Buddhist philosophy, they would say a 365th of a finger snap is one moment. Which means one finger snap has 365 moments. That's how it's taught, okay? So every moment the mind is doing something. So within one finger snap, your mind does 365 different things. It happens super fast. Impossible for us, right, to kind of know it unless we are extremely trained and the yogis are very aware of what the mind is doing. So just to give you a little bit of a taste of how we can talk about mind in that sense. Mind and mental factors working, being present all the time. The third category, then we are finished with the list for today, is we can talk about the mind of various levels of subtlety of mind. For example, we have coarser levels of minds, which refer to our 5 sense consciousnesses and the coarser mental consciousness, our thinking mind. But we can also talk about more subtle levels of consciousness. An example for that often is a dream consciousness. Yeah, when you fall asleep at night and you have a dream, becoming aware that you're dreaming about something, this consciousness, this form of mind is called a subtle form of consciousness. Because during your sleep, when you're dreaming, your sense consciousnesses are not active. They lie dormant. They are not actually working at that moment. But you still have this experience that you see things, that you grab things, you might climb a mountain or meet a person, or you might fly, or whatever you do. You have this experience, but that's a completely mental experience. Yeah. So that's what is called a subtler form of consciousness, is this dream consciousness. That's one example. But then we talk even about what is called a very subtle consciousness. And this is often referred to in Buddhism or called the mind of clear light, the subtlest form of your continuum, of of your consciousness. The mind of clear light, your subtlest form of consciousness, is present within you right now, and it's a mind that has no coarse dualistic experiences as such. And it becomes manifest only once the coarser levels of minds have become dormant. Sense consciousnesses, subtler forms of mental consciousness, when they become dormant and lose their ability to function, then the mind of clear light becomes manifest, it dawns. And this is something that for us ordinary beings naturally happens, for example, at the time of death. When we pass away, when this body dies, and consciousness becomes subtler and subtler during the death process, which we're going to look at in quite some detail, then at the time of death, the mind of clear light becomes manifest. Usually for us ordinary beings, we don't really recognize this because we are so in panic because we are dying. Yeah. But the yogis who have trained their mind throughout their life, they can intentionally become aware of that mind, and they can also intentionally induce it during their lifetime due to various meditative techniques, which we're also going to talk about a little bit later. Just to give you an overview of these various forms of consciousness that we have. But I think for us at the moment, the most important aspect, or at least the most inspiring one, I find, that we can immediately work with right now is, again, as I already mentioned, the aspect of the mind that it is by nature clear. That your mind by its very nature is clean, clear clarity. So the Buddhist assertion that your mind is clear, refers to that your negative emotions, harmful emotions, are not an innate part of your mind. Our negative emotions are not fixed in the mind. They can be removed completely from your mind stream. Negative emotions, or harmful emotions, as I actually like to use the term harmful instead of negative. In Buddhism, we use various terms for that. When you study various books, you will find various terms that refer to the same thing. We also call them delusions, mental afflictions that would afflict the mind, disturbing emotions. And the definition, the meaning of a mental affliction or a disturbing, harmful emotion is a factor in your mind which causes your mind to be unpeaceful, which causes you to be unrelaxed, which causes your whole continuum to be shaking, to be agitated. It disturbs your mental peace. So we talk about minds like anger, hatred, resentment, jealousy, craving, attachment, pride, anxiety, depression, and so forth. Whatever we suffer from in our mind stream is called a delusion. But these delusions, although they are temporarily here with us, quite often probably, they are not an innate part of your mind. They are not fixed in your mind. They are not set in stone. They can be separated. They can be removed from your mind. Because according to Buddhism, what the Buddha has found out is that the actual nature of your mind is already peaceful. It is calm. It is clarity. It's spacious and luminous and blissful. But at the moment, it is temporarily obscured. At the moment, your clean, clear nature of your mind is temporarily influenced by delusions. It is agitated by mental afflictions, temporarily obscured. And there are various analogies that are very helpful that can kind of help us to understand what is meant by that. And one analogy is that the Buddha said, at the moment, our minds are like boiling water. Boiling water, we all know, if you make pasta. Any Italians in the course? Anyone? Yes, they know how to make pasta very well. I lived in Italy for a few years, so I got very attached to the pasta that they make there. So if you make pasta, you put a pot of water onto the stove, and you heat up the water. We all know how boiling water looks like. It is water which is completely agitated, totally. It doesn't stand still for even a second. It's boiling, right? Okay. So in a boiling water, it's very dangerous, and it cannot reflect, you cannot reflect your face in the surface of boiling water because it's completely in an agitated state. Why? Because heat is applied to it. If you take the pot of boiling water and take it off the stove and put it aside, immediately, in a matter of seconds, the boiling will be pacified. It's still very hot, it's still steaming, you cannot take a drink from it yet. But if you wait, without applying the heat again, for a certain amount of time, let's say half an hour, the water will cool down, and the clarity aspect of the water becomes very apparent. You look at the water, you can see your face in its surface, you can have a drink from it, and it's clean, clear water. But that clean, clear clarity of the water, the clarity was also there when the water was boiling, right? The clarity was there. It was just in a very agitated state. In the same way, the clarity of your mind is within you right now. It's just that right now your mind is boiling due to mental afflictions, due to the seed of mental afflictions in your mind, past habits. It's in a boiling state. In the analogy of the pasta, the cause for the boiling is external fire or heat. But when we talk about our minds, what is the cause for our minds being in a boiling state? It's an inner cause, as we will see this afternoon. It's our own mental afflictions and negative karma that causes our mind to be agitated. These can be removed. These can be taken away due to developing wisdom. And when the heat of our mental afflictions is pacified, our mind will stop boiling and will become open, clear, and very beautiful and serene. That is a possibility, because the clarity is already here. It's just boiling at the moment. Another analogy is that the mind at the moment is like a glass of dirty water. Right? If you have a glass and there's water in the glass and there's a lot of sand and mushiness and dirt in the water, you would never take a sip from that glass. No way here in India you would do that out of fear from getting a daily belly, diarrhea. You would not touch it. It's like, thank you very much. No. But we know if you take the water and you pour it through a filtering system, like the marvelous filtering systems we have here at Tushita, for example, then what will come out is clean, clear water. And the dirt is filtered away. It remains in the filter and the clean water comes out. And then you can safely have a sip and it nourishes you and you'll be very healthy. Again, the clarity of the water was there also when the dirt was inside. The water seems to be unclear, but actually its nature is clarity. The dirt is not of the same nature as the water, you follow me? But you can take it away. It can be filtered out. In the same way, our disturbing emotions in the mind can be filtered away with the right methods, with the right techniques, practiced over a particular period of time. The dirt, the murkiness of our delusions can be filtered away, so that what remains is the clean, clear clarity of your consciousness, which causes yourself to be blissful and calm. I really like analogies, by the way. I hope you do too, because there's another one coming right up. Often the mind is compared, or delusions are compared to clouds floating through the sky. That your mind actually is in the nature of the great, immense, immaculate blue sky, whereas your delusions and negative, harmful emotions are just like clouds passing through. I mean, we know at the moment it's monsoon, and usually we might think it goes on and on for weeks, and it's just raining and raining, and wet and moist and foggy. But we know behind these clouds, there's always the presence of the immense, immaculate sky. The sky is always there. It is temporarily obscured by the clouds, but we are very aware that these clouds, this weather phenomena, is just there temporarily. The sky is actually not affected by clouds as such. They just move through the clarity of the sky. And then they disintegrate, and suddenly it opens up again, and you think, whoa! And there is the sky. And the sky is infinite, kind of. Where does it end? The sky is also here, in a sense. It's vast and spacious, luminous and clear. In the same way, your mind has this sky-like luminous nature, but just at the moment there is sometimes storms and dark clouds of attachment, aversion and ignorance manifesting within you, but they are not of one nature with the sky of your mind. You see that? They can be worked with. One more analogy. I'm so sorry. Last analogy. Often the mind is compared to the vast ocean. The ocean, incredibly vast blue ocean. Right? When you sit in a plane and you look down, the ocean is so vast, incredibly. But on the surface of the ocean you have all kinds of waves going on, one wave after the other coming into the shore. The waves are often compared to the thoughts in your mind. There's always another wave coming in, right? One after the other. There's always some agitation. Also in our minds, thoughts, emotions, memories, mental images, coming and going all the time. But just as we do not get attached to one wave, thinking, there is this wave. I love this wave. It's mine. It is me. It's just a wave. Finished, and a new one comes. In the same way, we shouldn't get attached or cling to thoughts and ideas in our mind that just come and go, negative emotions. Because if you go a little bit deeper under the surface, below the surface of the ocean, waves subside, and there's a certain stillness. No movement, right? 20, 30, 50 meters down, the further you go, there's a stillness. No agitation. On the surface level, yes, there's some waves temporarily happening. But you don't identify with them. You identify with what is on the ground level. The purity, clarity of your mind's nature. We can do that. That is possible. It's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of learning, what do I identify with? What is this nature of thoughts coming and going? And that inner deep nature of the ocean is not disturbed by waves. You see that, right? So all these analogies, you can choose your favorite one, which is particularly helpful for your mind. They refer to the point that the basic clarity of your mind stays unaffected no matter what's going on in it. You see? And that we can work with these temporary phenomena to make the mind clear, to make this clarity totally manifest. Someone that is a Buddha, for example, is somebody who has achieved, he or she or they have achieved a state of mind that is completely at peace. They have completely pacified these temporarily disturbing emotions by having removed and worked with its cause. And therefore disturbing emotions don't arise in their mind anymore. Somebody who has completely pacified his, her or their mind. And the Tibetan word for Buddha, or for someone who is enlightened, is the word Sangye. So we have two syllables here that have a very particular meaning. Sang, the first syllable of the word Buddha in Tibetan, refers to someone who has completely eliminated all obscurations. Someone who has utterly eradicated any form of any psychological problem, any negative emotion, any harmful disturbing factor. Completely pacified, gone from their mind without ever returning. That's something that is very hard for us to believe, that such a thing is possible. Right? We might think, okay, working with my anger, diminishing my anger a little bit, being a little bit less angry, that would be great. That I can do probably. We can fathom. But to completely eliminate any form of anger from your mind stream totally, so that you will never ever be angry again, that's possible? We might be shocked. Buddha says yes, that is totally a possibility. It depends on how you work with your mind. Sam, the complete eradication of any mental psychosis, any negativity, any psychological problem. And Gye, the second syllable, refers to having completed every realization, having fully developed our inner positive qualities. Starting with wisdom, seeing the nature of reality perfectly clearly, seeing things exactly as they actually are. Meaning, on the basis of that, having developed all our inner goodness, all our positive mind states, all inner beauty, due to mental work. So a Buddha is someone who has done that. He or she, or they have cultivated these two aspects, eliminated all obscurations, having gained all realizations. It's very revealing, actually, if we look at these two syllables, what they mean. They really show us of what we can do, what is possible for us. They show us exactly what job we can achieve in the mind. So you see, what I'm trying to express to you is, it is possible to achieve such a state of Buddhahood. It's not something airy-fairy, oh, we become a Buddha, an enlightened being. What it means is, it is someone that has completely realized their potential as a human being, having removed negativities and therefore increased positivities, and therefore their mind is undisturbed, peaceful and wise. And it's something that we can all do. It depends on how we work with our minds. That is what Buddhist practice is about, really. It's about the mind and becoming familiar with it. Right? I have positive, healthy emotions, something that is wonderful and beautiful. They are reasonable, but I also have unhealthy and destructive ones. They are unreasonable, seeing the world in an incorrect way. So we have to check that. You know, just because a thought arises in your mind doesn't mean it's true. We have a saying in Buddhism, don't believe everything you think. Just because something comes up doesn't mean that it's complete reality. We need to check, what's actually going on in my mind? How can I analyze my thoughts to see them more clearly? And this, of course, demands a lot of work. It is not something easy, but it's a skill that is completely necessary if we want to become happy and peaceful people. So our mind is very workable. We can train the mind. We can form the mind in any way we like. Lama Zopa Rinpoche would always say, your mind is like a piece of dough. You can mold your mind into any shape you want. It depends on you. What do you do with your mind? You have to guide it skillfully. The mind is like a child, you see. Another analogy I like. Because if you walk with a child through town, the child will say, oh mom, let's go in there. I want to go this. Why can't I have this one? No, I want to go there. And that's completely out there. And if we go along with whatever the child wants, well, enjoy your day. Right? It's a bit like, what? So we have to be skillful and we say, hey, wait, okay, we're going to go in there for 5 minutes, but then we're going to, go home or whatever. And the child will say, okay. You have to guide it skillfully along a right path. Otherwise, the child becomes completely spoiled, never satisfied, and becomes very unhappy and throws tantrums all day long. But if we educate the mind, as we would skillfully, with love, compassion, and patience, educate our dear child, then, with the right direction, change is possible for the better. Absolutely. Any questions about this? We had one. Yeah, you're here. You had one before, right?
Yeah, from earlier. I once saw kind of a talk by a guru, and someone asked him, "How can I let go of alcohol?"
Of alcohol.
Yeah,
Mm.
because it comes with withdrawal symptoms when you let go.
Yeah.
And his response was kind of different to what you're saying. He said, "You don't let go in the same way that a child doesn't let go of a teddy bear. You just mature spiritually, and then it will fall off naturally."
Yeah.
So, how do I know which things I should just leave alone and focus on my meditation and things and let them fall away, and which things to actually actively let go of?
Well, basically, it seems to me that both of them refer rather to the same thing. Because when we talk about wanting to overcome a certain form of addiction, just to say, oh, I let go alone might not be enough. But you have to let go of indulging in alcohol or drugs or whatever it is. You have to kind of withdraw from it actively, but then you have to use your time wisely to then work on your mind skillfully by way of having let go of it temporarily, that you don't want to fall back on it again. Right? So some things we can say, oh, I'm going to let go of that, being overly concerned with it. When we have certain forms of addictions, we cannot just say, I just let go. It's not going to work. We have to more actively let go, making the firm decision, okay, this is not going to bring me the happiness I'm looking for. It actually causes me so much suffering. Therefore, I'm going to pull back from it, but not only that, but then I use my time to change my mind for the better, to then not fall back to it again. Because what is an addiction? What is addiction? Addiction basically is wanting to get a form of particular pleasure where you know it's going to harm you on the long run, but you still indulge in it, and you can't let go of it, although you know it harms you. So sometimes you can ask yourself the question, what does it give you? Why do you like it so much, what you're addicted to? Why do you enjoy it so much? What does it give you? And you check, what does it give me? And then you say, okay, you're actually not addicted to that substance as such, but you are missing in your life a natural source that gives you what you are missing. And you look for it in that drug or alcohol or that experience. So then, I think what my point I'm trying to make is, it's not just saying, I just let go. It's, I make the decision, I let go. I don't go there anymore, and change my mind for the better with techniques. And it's not easy, it's super difficult. But over time, we create new habits. And whenever the thought arises, I want to indulge in it, you say, you stop yourself, and you redirect your mind. And the more you do that, over time, and we make mistakes, we might fall back, but over time, change will happen.
The same kind of approach for all attachment, or?
Well, basically, for all attachments, it is, in general, a similar approach, but we might have to be very skillful with ourselves, because some attachments are subtle, some are very coarse. So, we're going to talk about how to really, tomorrow, work with attachment gradually. Where to start, how to continue, and where to conclude, and how we integrate that in meditative practice. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm thinking about this picture of the mind is like an ocean, and emotions are like waves coming up and running. What would you say if like your personal mind is like in a way like insane? Like the waves are very strong.
Yeah.
So what about like people who have like big depressions and psychological stuff?
Yeah.
Is it like the same, you would say, or?
Well, even though there is a tornado happening, or a tsunami, right? And or extreme monsoon rains are falling, which destroy towns, like in Shimla now, this house collapsing due to landslides, due to heavy monsoon rains. The sky, like nature behind these clouds, is still clear. Although it's temporarily so obscured, so disturbed, that it seems like this is never going to stop, for example, right? But that's not the case. It can stop. It can be changed. Although, having said that, for someone, for example, that suffers from severe, strong depression, for example, it might not be enough to start here with a Buddhist meditation and say, now like this we work on our mind. That might be not the right starting point for everyone at any time. For certain things, you might see you have to see a professional, a doctor, and have to take certain medicines in order to stabilize the mind to some degree, which is still important. We're not throwing that out, that part. But based on that, once the mind is somewhat more stable, we can then go deeper and see what is actually the root cause of that suffering. Where does it come from? And how to then remove that cause, as we'll see this afternoon. But basically it's not different. Even the mind of an insane person is by its nature clear and knowing. It is just due to various causes and conditions accumulated in the past, it comes out very disturbed at the moment now. But every living being, every person has Buddha potential. And that is what this is referring to. The clarity, clear nature of your mind is your potential to become a fully enlightened being is already within you. The basis for that is always there. It's just obscured, no matter how heavily obscured. It's just an obscuration. The nature is purity. Does it make sense a bit? Yeah? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. What is the Buddhist take on evolution? Do animals also have a clear mind? The Buddhist take on evolution is something we're going to look at day 3 when we talk about more on the law of cause and effect and the law of karma. We're going to look at that in quite some detail the day after tomorrow. So I might give that question, we're going to come to that. Do animals also have a clear mind? Yes. Even animals, every sentient being. If you look at the word sentient being, it's a translation of the Tibetan word sem chen. Sem basically means mind, consciousness, and chen means a possessor, possessing or carrying. So a sem chen, a sentient being, is a mind possessor, a being with a mind. Every animal, from the tiniest ant to the biggest blue whale, all the monkeys, the stray dogs, whatever we see around us, every insect is a sentient being. They are a carrier of a mind stream. They want to be happy. They don't want to suffer. At the moment, they're in a situation where it's very difficult for them to actually bring that about for themselves. But they have a mind. They have what is called Buddha potential. Every living being, every sentient being, according to the Buddhist perspective, has the potential to become a fully awakened being. They can do that. Their present conditions at the moment makes it difficult for them right now, and we're going to talk about that also in greater detail. But that's one reason why, as a Buddhist, you would respect perfectly every form of life. Because you would see, there's another sentient being there who wants to be happy, doesn't want to suffer, and has the potential to become an awakened being just like myself. We're completely interconnected. Therefore, we try to save life whenever we can and respect and tolerate all of life. Doesn't matter if they're in an animal body or in a human body, they are equal. We're going to talk about that a lot as well. Yeah. Okay, yes.
In terms of sky and the ocean, what would the sky without clouds look like? What would emotions of waves look like? Basically, aren't our harmful emotions also, doesn't that make us more human?
So what would a sky without clouds look like, for example? Isn't what you're basically asking is, don't our negative emotions, when they are gone, don't they make us human actually? That as a human being, negative emotions are just a part of us and that's okay. Well, you see, what this view is trying to suggest to you would be saying, that would be like saying, a sky needs clouds in order to be a beautiful sky. But it doesn't, does it? On a very beautiful, wonderful day, cloudless, we enjoy kind of. Of course, every analogy has its shortcomings, obviously. An ocean without waves, yes. When you become fully enlightened, which means when you become a Buddha, a Sangye, and you have eliminated all disturbing emotions and increased all positive qualities, it doesn't mean that you become like a robot that doesn't feel anything anymore. It doesn't mean you become like a completely non-human kind of machine. On the contrary, you still have thoughts. You still have various waves going on, but they are not causing you to suffer anymore in any way. But your mind will be completely peaceful, and you will have the ability to benefit and bring peace into the world and to other sentient beings perfectly without the slightest bit of any hindrance within you. You still have a mind that is changing moment by moment. There's still some kind of waves there on the surface of the ocean, but they do not disturb your inner peace whatsoever. So basically you have completely developed your human potential, which is now obscured. But it's true, we think in order to be human, I have to have negative emotions. That's just who I am. The Buddha would say, no. That's not just who you are. That's what you are now. You can grow out of that. And then that's when real enjoyment and blissful happiness really arises, once these negative factors don't overwhelm you anymore. As we will see this afternoon, where they're coming from, what suffering is, and how it can be overcome, that we're going to talk about that in greater detail. Yeah. Yes? One or two more?
What is the relationship between the mind and itself?
Is the mind something that you are, or is it something that you have? Well, you do have a mind, right?
Yes.
So if you have a mind, you cannot be it. Right? We can say, I have a mind, I have thoughts, emotions, things that I identify with, I have a body. But who is this I that has these two? Is there such a thing as a self, an I, that is findable apart from body and mind, which possesses body and mind? This is what we're going to look at. Not right now. But the Buddha basically says, show to me, where is this I that has a mind? On the other hand, when you say, I am my mind, Buddha says, okay, what part of your mind is you? Is it your I consciousness that is you? No, because I also have other aspects. Is sadness you? No, that's just a part of my mind. The mind has many different parts, many different things are happening. You can investigate them all and you will see, I'm not one of them, I'm somehow all of them. But we will check that out. Buddha would say, you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. They appear, they are there, you experience them. But it's not you. So who am I then? We'll see that. Day one, right now. Numero uno. Oh, yes.
What do you think, how does the Buddha's mind work? I'm sure there's...
I would love to know.
they see the waves, they feel the clouds. Do they, on the minute-by-minute basis, they focus on the sky, focus on the ocean, instead of just only feeling the waves, or only sensing the clouds? I just wonder,
Yeah.
minute basis, how does their mind work?
Yeah. It is said that a Buddha's mind, someone who has completely overcome ignorance totally, a Buddha's mind knows all phenomena of the present, past and future simultaneously. A Buddha's mind is omniscient. It knows basically everything. It is in contact with every phenomenon, every human being, every thought of every human being simultaneously throughout the universe. A Buddha's mind is omniscient and knows all. And it's actually a mind that is not a conceptual mind that says, oh, this is that, should I do this, should I do that? It is completely non-conceptual, direct, full of love, compassion for every living creature. And what a Buddha does is nothing else but wishing to benefit every sentient being, apprehending every living being as loving every living being as his or her own child, much more than that. So a Buddha's mind is not obscured in any way anymore. It's completely open, omniscient, and has direct, perfect wisdom, perfect knowledge of everything that exists, and therefore engages with everything in the most beautiful and possible way, not causing any suffering for him or herself or anyone else. That's one way what a Buddha is. It's a big topic. I could say many things. And I definitely have no experience direct of what a Buddha's mind is like. But when we talk about a Buddha's mind, the term is omniscient. It knows all phenomena and engages with all phenomena simultaneously in that beautiful way. Does it help a bit or not? Not so satisfied with that answer.
I guess I just wonder what a person who is achieving enlightenment, how does his mind work from a minute-to-minute basis? I mean, what does he focus on?
It focuses on everything. A Buddha's mind focuses on all phenomena. I mean, okay, we're talking about something that is far out, enlightenment. It is not blocked anymore. It's now I'm going to focus on this. It's something which is completely beyond our experience, basically. We could talk about forever what a Buddha's mind is and how it functions and how a Buddha experiences things. Basically, we will not be able to know. Just as we can talk about for a very long time how strawberry chocolate tastes like. It has this sweetness to it. It has this it's very nice. It has also this strawberry kind of thing to it. It is very soft. I can talk to you for an hour about what strawberry chocolate tastes like, but unless we take a piece of strawberry chocolate and taste it, we will never know what it really is. So therefore the question, how does a Buddha's mind work, is a difficult question to answer. The thing is, you discover it by walking the path towards that goal, and then you tell me. Yeah.
I guess my question is not with the Buddha's mind, I guess with someone who is trying to have enlightenment, to achieve enlightenment or on the path to that goal, what should he focus on?
Oh, that's a different question.
On a minute-to-minute basis.
Someone who wants to achieve Buddhahood, what should we focus on a minute-to-minute basis? Well, we are starting here. First of all, we are focusing on, okay, what does it mean to develop a mind towards Buddhahood? That's actually what I'm trying to explain already all along. It means diminishing harmful emotions and increasing positive emotions. How do I do that? Well, first of all, I have to get to know what a harmful emotion is and what a positive state of mind actually is. How to differentiate these two. Because at the moment, our mind is like a big soup, like a salad. We have just emotions and states arise all the time. We have no ability to clearly distinguish, oh, this is actually a harmful thought. I don't want to follow this. It brings me suffering. This is a constructive thought. I would like to follow that. We don't know how to distinguish that because we have no concentration at the moment. We have absolutely no ability to actually focus on one thing at a time for a longer moment, actually, as you will discover once you sit with Kirsty for a while, how up and down the mind actually is. So we identify these various states of mind, we develop the mind from moment to moment to gain concentration, to then engage in the various practices which we're going to look at for the next 10 days, This is what we focus on from moment to moment to gain Buddhahood. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I don't know. So your answer takes a few more days. You know? So we're starting first of all by getting to know the nature of the mind and that it is workable. Because if you think spiritual practice, becoming a Buddha, come on, that's rubbish, that is my mind, and I am an angry person. Nothing to change about that. I am a depressed person. This is who I am. If you hold that view, well, very difficult to overcome negative thoughts. But once you start, actually, I can change something. Because I see, hey, my mind is not by its very nature negative. It is clear and knowing. I can do something about it. That is the starting point, giving you inspiration. I would like to engage in that practice to develop the mind. You know what I mean? 1 minute. That brings us what Lama Yeshe also concludes. He's laughing and saying, a clean, clear mind exists within us. The fundamental nature of our consciousness is pure. But while our mind has its own essence of clarity, it's covered by a contaminating blanket, heavy blanket of concepts. Nevertheless, its nature is still clean, clear. Our consciousness is clean, clear. Therefore, we have to recognize my nature, the essence of my consciousness, is not actually negative. The pure, clean, clear nature of my mind exists within me right now. And I can make use of it. How? We will see. We are going to discover. One more, and then we break for lunch.
So you never look at the past, like just how much, I don't know, that's not that.
So, can you say it louder?
I'm asking if you ever, the Buddhism, if you ever look at the past,
Yeah.
like open interest and
Yes. I mean, in Buddhism, when we say, okay, we look at, you mean you're talking about past traumatic experiences, how to work with trauma in Buddhism, for example. Yes, there is methods of how to see, okay, when I look at my, because if I want to understand my present situation, it's coming from somewhere. So if I want to understand this present situation, I have to understand how was it caused, where is it coming from. If I want to work skillfully to heal my present situation, it's very important to look at the various causes which has happened in the past to bring that about, that healing process. So yeah, it is true, in some way we can talk about, we talk about that in Buddhism, definitely. How my present situation right now is the result of past actions, past experiences. And how my future experience is the result of how I deal with it now. How I deal with my present situation now, with my actions, that will determine how I will experience my reality in the future. So how to skillfully deal with that? Yes, that's what we're going to look at. So very much. Yeah, absolutely. All right. I think that's enough for this morning. Here are some questions that you can write down if you would like to. This is the questions you're going to use or you can bring into your discussion groups. Every day after our morning session, I'm going to give you about 3 questions that you can use as fuel, that you can go through in your groups to discuss them together. So the way this is going to work is, at 2 o'clock for your afternoon session, today we're still going to meet in here. You're going to have a gong at 10 to 2. And at 2 o'clock after your lunch break, please all come in here. And Kirsty is going to put you into groups and going to tell you one place where you're going to meet every day as a group. And then from the coming days onwards, you're going to meet as a group, come together and discuss these questions. Look at them. It's not about finding the right answer to these things. It's not about saying this is how it is, and it's about sharing our views on that. As Kirsty is going to mention, please, let each other speak, tell their opinion. Some people might be a bit more quiet, a bit more shy about talking, Encourage each other to speak and share every answer, every viewpoint is valid. You know, we are a group here, a community of different people, so listen to each other, pay attention to each other, learn from each other. What do you think about these things? You see? Some of the people in your group are going to talk a bit more naturally because you like speaking a bit more. Try to let everyone speak and share your opinion, and in this way we can learn from each other and think about these things and contemplate them more deeply. Okay, so you can write them down now. Then you can enjoy your lunch break, and at 2 o'clock you come here for your discussion group organization. Yeah? Thank you so very much. See you at 3:30. I see you again here. Yeah.